tonight about one of my favorite wine categories and wine regions. It's not unique for me to say this. Most wine enthusiasts love Bordeaux, but I want to share it with you tonight to make sure you're not scared of it, okay? Bordeaux doesn't have to be crazy expensive. It's not necessarily that sophisticated. It's not pretentious. Please embrace it. Bordeaux in general are typically red wines that are blends. So we're talking the same as a lot of that California red table wine category that's become so popular. But this is one of the regions that made it famous. And it can be simple, it can be affordable, it can be easy to pronounce, although not usually. It can also be white, it can also be sweet, and it is one of my favorite categories to talk about. You see a lot of bottles in front of me. I promise I won't wax poetic about all of them, but I do want to give you a rundown. So we're talking southwestern France, right? It's not that far from the coast, so you get a little bit of maritime climate, meaning influence from the sea, a lot of rain, a lot of clouds, but still warm enough for all the grapes to get happily ripe. It's a nearly perfect climate, and the soils are perfect throughout the region for their individual varietal specialties. So in the northern part of Bordeaux and on the left bank, as we call it, meaning the left side of the river, these wines are generally made with Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot and Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot and Malbec, right? But usually on the left bank in the Medoc, they are led by Cabernet Sauvignon, and they are fierce wines, full-bodied, powerful, a lot of tannin, a lot of structure, and yes, they are meant for cellaring. Northernmost, you're talking Saint Estèphe. This is just a display bottle of Coast d'Esternal, second wine. This is a nice treat. The 2009 vintage I bought quite a while ago, and I'm working my way through. A little bit to the south, you have Pauillac. It's spelled weird, it's hard to say, I get it, but they are some of the best Cabernet Sauvignon based wines in the world. Also some of the most expensive. You're talking Chateau Lafite, right? Chateau Mouton, Rothschild, Chateau, etc., etc. This one is a second wine. I tend to like those second wines on second labels in case you can't tell. But this is a second wine of a second growth there, which means a cru system, hierarchy, good, better, best. And Pauillac is known for very taut, muscular, tannic wines that overall are probably the most cellar notorious for the Bordeaux region. A lot of bang for a lot of bucks there. In St. Julien, things are a tiny bit softer, but you're talking literally about kilometers away. 1 kilometer away, maybe, from Pauillac. But St. Julien tends to be a little softer, a little more approachable, a lot of brown spice, less fierce tannin, less harshness, but also great for the cellar. And this is Chateau Léoville Poifer, which is another second growth there in the Medoc. We'll talk about the cru system in Bordeaux another time. It's very complicated and it's very old. The classification goes back to 1855, and who knows what the hell they're doing since then, okay? So it means something for collectors, but for you guys, just drink wines that taste good. It doesn't matter what kind of curtains it has or how well landscaped it is. What matters is the wine tastes good. Doesn't have to cost $1,600 a bottle. A little bit further south in the Medoc, we have the region of Margaux. And for the Cabernet-based blends, for that part of Bordeaux, this is my favorite region because they tend to get a little bit riper, they're more approachable, very floral and pretty and accessible. When I taste a vintage of Bordeaux at a time, Margaux is almost always the region that shows best. It's just so pretty when they're young. They do also age very well, of course, but Margaux is like tea leaf and cassis and black cherry and yeah, a lot of floral notes. Wines from Margaux are very special, not to be confused with Chateau Margaux, which is of course named for the region and is the most expensive and most prolific wine from there. Also one of the best I've ever had in my entire life. It's a little bragging rights for you. And it's also pictured right there. I rode a bicycle to this spot and took this photo. It was very rainy that day, actually. That's a true story. You didn't know I was so fancy, did you? Then we get out of the Medoc and we go down a little further south to Pessac-Léognan and Graves, and they're actually especially known for white wines. Yeah, they make white wines in Bordeaux too, guys. These are Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon blended, and they're fresh. Semillon provides a little weight and a little sort of honeyed character. Still dry wine, but very rich, but not oaky like most Chardonnay can be. White Bordeaux is very delicious with shellfish, especially any kind of like richer, meaty fish dishes. This is Chateau Smith-au Lafitte, and they're known for both their red wine and their white wine, and the white in particular is always quite a stunner. I happen to have this one in my collection. Frankly, I don't know where I got it from. I found it downstairs tonight in an effort to display the entire run, and I'm pretty fucking excited that I have it. I just don't know. I don't think I bought it. I can't afford this. Maybe Santa Claus dropped it off once. I don't know. Once we get out of the left bank, Medoc, and Pessac-Léognan and Graves, we talk about right bank Bordeaux. And to be honest with you, that's the reason I was inspired to start this tonight. That's what's in my glass. And the region of Saint-Emilion is the reason I fell in love with wines from Bordeaux. For quite a long time, even into my wine professional days, I thought I didn't like it because you're talking earthy and dry and very gritty. But the wines from the right bank are really usually based with merlot and sometimes Cabernet Franc, but they're more lush, more delicious in their youth, definitely more approachable, more feminine style wines, although also very, very, very cellar capable. This one I'm drinking tonight is a 2012 Canon Le Gaffelier, one of the most recognizable wines and dudes in Europe. His name is Stefan von Nieberg, and he's a super cool cat. He's like a fashion trendsetter and a really nice guy, and his wife is lovely. I had a wonderful lunch with them. So I had this wine tonight with a pan-seared ribeye, Vesuvio, some mashed potatoes, and green beans, and I plated the dish for myself and couldn't figure out what to drink with it, and I don't know why it took me so long to get to Bordeaux, duh. But as soon as I put it together, knowing I had this bottle kind of in queue, it was a done deal. It was like, right off the rest of the night, this is what it's all about. You're welcome. I love Saint-Emilion. Cabernet Franc gives the wine a little more structure and density, but it also provides acidity and an herbaceousness to foil merlot, which especially these days in light of global warming, if you believe in it, merlot can be very ripe. It can be very lush, a lot of extraction, meaning color and flavor from the skins. And sometimes all the merlot is just a little too much, so you do need something to balance it out. And in Saint-Emilion, because of the climate and the soils, the hillsides, the slope, the valley, plateau, etc., it's all really well balanced. Such good stuff. And once again, if you're new to Bordeaux, Saint-Emilion is a really good place to start. You can also find more affordable versions outside of there called Castillon, or they call them Côte de Bordeaux from Blaye, or Côte de Bourg. Lalande de Pomerol is another place to look. But really, the piece de resistance and the best of the best for me, from my palate in Bordeaux, come from Pomerol. Chateau Petrus, if you've heard of it, is one of the most famous wines, one of the most expensive wines in the world. That's 100% Merlot. And this is, because I can't afford Petrus, I can barely afford this, but this is 2015 Chateau Clainet. And if you've ever wanted to make love to a bottle of wine, it would be this one. Okay, it's sultry, it's rich, it's indulgent, it's like absolutely stunning, but somehow also delicate and flirty and coy, and you know the romance is there. Like, you know you're gonna get some, but it's not super obvious. And Chateau Clainet is one of my very favorites in all of Bordeaux, in all the wine world. And I was just really super excited to try this for the first time in a couple years tonight. So that's what this glass is. And I'm not sure how well you guys can see the color and how opaque it is, but this stuff is inky, man. It's opaque, it's really purple, and I can smell it all the way from over there. This is really floral, ton of like plum, dark fruit for sure, a lot of dark berries. There's some like graphite, a lot of people call it pencil lead. Pomerol is really famous for its clay, and clay is really, really good for Merlot all over the world. I'm gonna enjoy that sip and the rest of this glass for the next little bit, but the other reason I wanted to share these wines and my process with you guys tonight is based on all the feedback and questions I've gotten from the dozen of you that watch this is, Barb, how do you taste so many good wines at home? Semicolon, Barb, we notice you often show us unopened bottles, but you said you taste them. What gives? So I want to talk to you for a second about this fancy little gadget. And this isn't sponsored. They don't give me money for this, although Coravin, if you want to give me free argon capsules for life, I would accept them. This is a Coravin unit, kiddos, and if you're a wine drinker in your house and you like to experience them the way I do, maybe there's only one of you in the household that drinks wine, or maybe you like to try different things with a meal, only a glass at a time, this is absolutely for you. It's not cheap. The unit itself costs about $300, and the argon capsules cost about $20 for a 2-pack. But this is a wine access system, and what it means is I don't have to open these bottles of wine and basically ruin them once they're open. It means I can access this much of this bottle and it stays intact until the next time I want to try it. That might be tomorrow, it might be next week, it might be 4 months from now. It's a game changer, guys. I had one for the last 5 years. My sweetheart got me one for my birthday when it first hit the market, and I got the second model a year ago. It's a little easier to use, it's lighter weight, and it lasts a little bit longer. But I can't not talk about this. It's basically a surgical needle, see? You place it into on top of the bottle, the needle goes in, it takes the wine out, and it replaces the wine with argon gas, which is a neutral situation. So you're avoiding the oxygen contact, which is what makes the wine deteriorate, and you're avoiding early aging. I don't really get the science of all of it. I just know I can have a glass of wine whenever I want, and I'm not ruining like an $85 bottle of wine when I do it. This absolutely changed my wine world. It's called a Coravin. You should look it up. You should consider purchasing one for yourself. But for sure you should know it's not inexpensive. However, I think that the wine that hasn't been wasted in my house and the experiences I'm able to have are priceless. So it does make up for it. And it's my favorite wine gadget. I want to tell you guys a little bit more over the course of the next few weeks about other things I use to preserve my wines, access my wines, keep them at a certain temperature. Mostly, I just want to keep talking to you about delicious wine. This Clinay is the real deal, y'all. If you can get your hands on 2009 Clinay, sell your firstborn child for it, okay? I'm not kidding. I don't have kids, so I don't even know what that means. But kids mostly seem like assholes. And 2009 Clinay today is better than anything they can give you. I'll demonstrate this Coravin for you to demonstrate my last style of wine from Bordeaux. So here you have Carme de Riosec, 2010. This is Sauternes, guys. This is dessert wine. It's made from late harvested, basically moldy Sauvignon Blanc and Semillon grapes. It's pretty gross, but they call it noble rot, so it means it's very fancy. You'll see how I'm gonna put this Coravin on top of the foil, on top of the cork. I'm gonna press it down. The needle goes through the cork, like so. And now I have access to what's inside, you see. I'm gonna press this button and magic happens. And delicious Sauternes is gonna come out. I don't have a clean glass, so just, can you see? It pours maybe about an ounce for each push of the button. And you can see how much has come out. And keep in mind that instead of that being oxygen, that's argon gas. Once again, it's neutral, it's harmless, but it avoids the premature oxidization of the wine inside the bottle. In my experience with Coravin accessed wines, they don't last forever. The fine folks there may tell you they will, but in my experience, you still want to drink the wines within a window of about 6 months because there is still some kind of biological thing happening there. So now I've got Sauternes mixed with Saint-Emilion in my glass, which that's not what it's supposed to look like, but it smells great. Sauternes is all about the candied orange zest, sweet, dried fruits like dried apricot, definitely a lot of floral. Sauternes is well known for some saffron notes, a little bit of white flowers. And like white figs, tons of orange candy, like creamy orange starburst. And it finishes with this very lithe, soft honey note. The important thing about Sauternes is the acidity. It just lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. Yeah. This is Bordeaux, you guys. That's a crash course. It's a really basic, honestly, really bullshit introduction. There's so much more I want to tell you about all of these. But really, the point I want to get across is do not be intimidated by wines from Bordeaux. At their most basic, these are red table wines, the same as the ones in the wine aisle, California red blends that you've been buying for years and years. Get out of the California commodity brand $8.99 shit and go down the Bordeaux aisle. I guarantee you there's something for $8.99 or $9.99. It'll be called Bordeaux Superior, which really just means a little bit higher alcohol. It might be from Medoc, as I referenced a couple episodes ago from Chateau Senejac. Or ask your local wine pro for some recommendations for wines from Bordeaux. Those are usually merlot based, a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon, maybe a little bit of Cabernet Franc, but they go with a lot of foods. Like I said, I had steak. Red wines from Bordeaux go with stew, anything pastoral, hard cheeses, definitely Comte, the French cheese that they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner nonstop in that region. Bordeaux is one of the most important categories to talk about. Why it took me so long, I don't know. It's just there's so much, but I hope I helped narrow it down for you a little bit. And I hope that you don't want to send one of those asshole kids to college, because you really should be investing your money in wines from Margaux, Saint Eustache, Saint Emilion, definitely from Pomerol, and if you've got the dollars, from Sauternes. And lastly, don't send your asshole kid to like Loyola. Buy a Coravin instead and drink whatever you want, whenever you want. Check that out. That's beautiful stuff, right? Thanks for sticking with me tonight. I hope you like wines from Bordeaux already. And if not, I hope you get some very soon. And by get some, I mean